Welcome to Billion Dollar Marketing Secrets Over Coffee with Biz Coach Steve Feld. Biz Coach Steve interviews fellow successful business owners about the strategies they have used to grow their businesses, and in turn, you can use them to help you navigate your business towards success. Ready to learn strategies to grow your business with less stress and build a long-term sustainable business to exceed your personal and business financial goals to build the business of your dreams? Well, you have come to the right place. Please welcome Biz Coach Steve Feld.
Hello, fellow business owners, and welcome to another episode of Billion Dollar Marketing Secrets Over Coffee. I'm Biz Coach Steve Feld, and my goal is to stop business owners from suffering entrepreneurial depression and make running their businesses much easier, more fun, and highly profitable so they can hit seven figures and beyond. Today, we have another great guest for you. We have Jan Sather. Now, Jan has helped client companies hire superior talent, not just average, superior talent. And he's going to share some of the better methods and processes for hiring, which is critical nowadays. And he believes in top performing talent and in finding them to use his proven process. Please welcome Jan.
Thank you very much. Why don't I give you a little background on where the information that I possessed in terms of finding top performing talent came from. I got a call from a customer in July of 1976. And I had found a plant manager for him who'd been with him 2 years, and they were printing so much money they were having to hire trucks to haul it away in their factory, which was producing long haul vehicles for the trucking industry. So this man says to me, my next door neighbor and his partner have started a very nice little medical device company in Lakewood, Colorado. They need you. They need engineers. Call Rand Bellows up and tell him I told you to call him and to use you and get you to put to work finding him people. I said, well, okay, I can do that. So I called Rand, and he was very cordial, very professional. He passed me on to his vice president of research and development, a man by the name of Don Lobdell. Don had a PhD in mechanical engineering out of Stanford. But what he was most of all was a product of having been trained by Hewlett Packard in their explosive growth days in the 50s and 60s. They taught him how to build a company with talent. He brought a template with him to the company in Lakewood called Cobe Laboratories and laid that template right on top of them and built it. And I'm going to give you some numbers in a little bit. But my first call to Don was, I learned he's very direct. Well, so when I told him who I was and what I did, his response was, and why shouldn't I deal with you? I said, well, Don, because I'm an engineer. Oh, okay, come on over. So that's how that conversation started. Don taught me the people lessons that he learned at HP about what is top performing talent. How do you recognize it? What do you do with it? How do you put it to work in your company? How do you build a company around it? And he did the same thing for Cobe between 1976 and 1991, when the two founders cashed out at 400 million. They grew from 22 to 400 million over that time period. Yeah, I found 66 engineers, and I know Don really liked me, and he confirmed it about 7 or 8 years ago when I got an email from him on LinkedIn, and he said, I've now joined LinkedIn, and you're the first person I've chosen to connect with. I thought, wow, that is really nice. That tells me an awful lot. We did all the right things, and he recognized I helped him build it. So I know how to build a company.
Nice.
With talent.
And who are your primary customers nowadays?
Well, for a long time, I focused on the medical device industry. I worked in aerospace personally for 7 years on some very interesting projects. First ever communication satellite program, and six transponders, and the 6 magnetometers to the moon where the astronauts put the microwave radio system on the Mariner Mars 69 flyby, and then went to Martin Marietta in Denver and was responsible for building the black boxes. There were 6 large black boxes that went on the spacecraft, the first ones to go to Mars and land and set down successfully, and then begin to send back pictures and you know, that kind of information. They couldn't move like the ones they have up there now, so it was a prototype type proof of concept, but it worked, and it was the first true artificial intelligence vehicle developed by man. It had a 4-panel phased array coming out of the the base of the lander as it approached the ground. It had 1 minute of reserve gas to move it if it found boulders that were not going to be acceptable to set down on, which it did not. So neither space probe fired their system on Mars, but it was fired successfully on Earth to prove that it worked. So there's a little extra background.
Okay. And what do you see many employers are looking for nowadays in talent?
Well, you know, I guess I have frequently wondered what they really are looking for. A lot of people are very specific, especially in engineering. You know, if you need a certain kind of electronics engineer, you got to go find that talent. If it's more generic, you can be more flexible. I think the biggest problem is no educational institution in this country that I'm aware of teaches anything about people or interviewing or building a company with people or anything like that. So I think there's a hodgepodge of information that people use. Some use it better than others, obviously, but I don't think anybody really understands the process. We were introduced to a man about 30 years ago who had moved up to Denver, and he had been with Valley National Banks in the Phoenix market starting in about 1977 or 78. Shortly after he joined them, Chase Manhattan moved to the Phoenix market and began immediately to steal market share and intellectual capital from Valley National Bank. After about 9 months of getting their head handed to them, the board of directors called a meeting, and Steve and his boss reported to the EVP of Operations, who had 250 branches and 13 subsidiaries reporting to him. And that man came back from the meeting and sat Steve and Steve's boss down and said, "Okay, gentlemen, we're no longer a bank. We're now a customer service organization." And I don't have a clue what that means. You got 4 months to tell me who I am and where I'm going. And so they went to work on it. There was a couple of professors in the psychology department at Arizona State that Steve had heard about, and he went over and met with them. And from that, they developed 2 tools. One was to assess the climate in an organization. Is it positive? Is it negative? You know, are people getting the things they want, the things they need? The other thing was a psychometric assessment that they statistically validated. And the secret sauce to the tool is it's multidimensional. Myers-Briggs and DISC are, they're valuable constructs, construct being a theory of the personality. But you can't place a person in a role using Myers-Briggs or DISC. Your accuracy is under 30%. That's worthless. So what you get is nice to know information without much value. With a 3-dimensional plus product, I can tell you how somebody fits and why you should hire them and how you should use them. But without that, you're guessing. And most people are guessing.
What's the one thing that you really love about doing what you do?
Well, that's a good question. I really am not suited for recruiting. I'm not a great fit using my own tool because I think differently, I act differently. And so the most valuable thing I can tell you is things like working with Cobe Laboratories and helping build them. That's what I like to do. I like companies to be successful. I like to be able to make a significant contribution to their success because I know what I'm doing. I know the kind of people I'm presenting to them. I know those people can perform. Nobody that I ever placed at Cobe out of those 66 was let go. They all, worked. Maybe some of them only worked a few years, but none of them were asked to leave because they were highly competent.
Yeah.
So to me, the most important thing I do is find the highly competent people. I have a man on an interview today for a retained search in Seattle. He's a laboratory director for clean water, dirty water, and NELAP laboratories. NELAP being the EPA Cooper Fund version. And I had found a man last summer that was a top performer. He had been with the same company for 20 years, and he had all kinds of accomplishments. But it turns out his parents were having serious difficulties living. They were 80 years old. His dad was no longer with us. He had Alzheimer's or some form of severe dementia. He didn't recognize anybody. And the man's mother was just worn out trying to take care of Dad. So when we were ready to hire him, when he uncovered all this stuff, and he said, I can't do this right now. So I had to go back and find another guy. Fortunately, I found one who had worked in Seattle up until a couple of years ago. He's currently in the Chicago area. But he's another top performer. So I hit 2 out of 2, and that's kind of unusual. Really top performers, those that McKinsey and Company in an article in 2019 said are 800% more effective than the average employee, are hard to find. They're less than 5% of the total workforce. I don't know what the real number is. Nobody, it's just a guess. It's probably between 2 and 5%. So you get a few of those people in your company and you will explode and things will be wonderful. So it's one of the keys, and being able to identify them using my psychometric assessment is important also. But with that, these people are far more flexible than the average engineer. They are so far above everybody else. It's, what's the problem? Give me the problem, I'll go fix it. I don't care what it is. If I have to fix the handle in the lavatory, I'll do that. I don't care. Just tell me where the problem is today and we'll get it. And they're a joy to know and a joy to work with, because there's just no limits to what they are willing to do. But they're a very small percentage. It's very difficult to just go looking for them because there aren't very many signs about how good they really are.
Yeah.
You look at their LinkedIn profile, it gives you some hints, but it doesn't really tell you the real picture. You got to get on the phone and talk to the person and find out what makes them tick, why they do what they do, why they're so successful, and how much fun they're having being so successful.
What would you tell like a business owner, a business leader? There are some problems, issues that to steer clear from during recruiting.
Well, don't hire in your own image. There's no other copy like you. So don't think about that as an option. It's not.
Yeah.
That's lesson number one. Other than that, it's the consistency of the information you're looking for that makes an awful lot of difference. You got to know what you want and why you want it and what you're going to do with it. And working with Don Lobdell and learning the things he did at Hewlett Packard, I firmly believe the greatest company ever developed in this country was Hewlett Packard, because those two guys knew the answers to all of these problems without the technology that I now have available. They just figured it out, and they trained people, and they taught collaboration, and they created an extremely fun place to work. Everybody was on the same page. Everybody was willing to help everybody else. And it was an amazing culture until Carly Fiorina came along.
So, you've been in business for a while, but what is one thing, that you would do differently 10 years ago, knowing that, keeping the knowledge that you have now?
Well, when 9/11 came along, I had 25 people. I had, $8,000 a month lease, $8,000 a month phone bill. And the crap hit the fan in the Front Range of Colorado. We lost 130, 140,000 jobs in just months, in less than a year. And 75% of our customers turned to vapor. So, all I can say is I didn't see it coming. I didn't forecast anything that bad. But 9/11 was a real clunker. And then it was followed up by the economic debacle in September of 2008, which was a setback again. And then the pandemic was another setback. So I'm now thinking to myself, in another 8 to 10 years, there's going to be another major setback. It now seems to be the mode of operation.
Right.
So I think very, very carefully about that in terms of starting a business. I had received an email from an investment firm, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and it described the ideal company. Said there are 4 key elements to it. Number one, superior technology. You have something that nobody else has, and they can't go get it just by turning on the faucet. They'd have to do an awful lot of work and find a real expert in psychometrics in order to make that happen. So we have that good fortune. We have that tool. It also should be debt-free. So if we sell the tool, we get paid, then they get paid, then they get it. So we don't have any debt. So debt-free is another.
Mm-hmm.
Scalability. Obviously, if you got a website, there's all kinds of people that can help you with scalability. That's probably maybe the simplest part of the project. And then digital marketing also got to lend itself to digital marketing. So you don't have to go hire a sales force that is much more difficult to control.
Right. So what would you tell like a business owner, business leader to focus on right now when they're thinking about bringing on someone new onto their team?
Well, I'd spend a lot of time analyzing what I really want and what I really need. The better the talent you find, the more flexibility you have, and you can do many different things. If you can get just a couple of those 800% plus effective people that McKinsey pointed out. So that's what I would do. I would go looking for that.
Okay. Now, what is like one thing, because every business owner has had this, the one thing or just one that you learned the hard way in business?
Well,
I know there's many.
How long have you got? Have you got a couple of days to do this?
Yeah, that's why I have to keep it to one, because we've all had a few lessons.
Yeah, it still comes back to the biggest problem is always people, knowing who they are, what they are, how to hire them. And that's why I really believe in the science of our psychometric assessment, because it takes the guesswork out of them.
Yeah.
It tells me exactly how they will perform. And there's no mutual mystification in the process.
Okay. And briefly, just tell us about your assessment, so get familiarized to our listeners so they understand that a little bit better.
Well, it's 100 questions. We use what DISC uses, impact style. We use what Myers-Briggs uses, which is temperament. But the one we use that is the most valuable is called motivated role. Your mind works like radar. Mind sends out a signal that says, I want, I need. it gets feedback from its environment, from the people they're working for, the company. Feedback that says, I'm getting what I want, I'm getting what I need. I'm so happy I'd do this job for free if I could afford it. So, it's that sort of thing that you need to find, and you need to build on and find the right people that want to make it happen. And the others will follow.
It's very, very true. Any parting thoughts that you'd like to leave everyone with?
Well, there's, I've got a number of articles. I have written a book. I've got over 20 chapters on a book about all the sort of stuff and some other, some additional things that we've talked about. It's not all my ideas. I will give attribution to other people who will be interested in contributing a chapter or part of a chapter. But the key is make sure you know where you're going and who you're going with, and that's critical. There's Gallup a couple of years ago was wondering why such a small percentage of startup companies can't get past the $10 million revenue barrier. And they came up with what they call the 5 C's. One example of that would be alignment. Are the people on this project in this company in alignment? If they are, they should be able to bust through 10 million. I don't know if I should say easily, but they should be able to bust through it. And the other 4 are important also, but I think alignment is everybody being on the same page, moving in the same direction, singing from the same hymnal, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, excellent. Well, Dan, thanks for being on our show. We're going to put in how they can contact you in the show notes. So if they want, get that assessment and look for some top talent, we'll have them reach out to you. How's that?
Well, thank you very much. I've enjoyed the time, and I appreciate the opportunity to put my name out there. I'm happy to help people.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being our guest, sharing your expertise. And if you like Jan and other guests on this show, please make sure you give us a positive review, like, and subscribe to this channel. I'm Biz Coach Steve Feld, wishing you and your business much success.
We hope you liked today's guest on $1 Billion Marketing Secrets Over Coffee. If you'd like to see how much hidden revenue we can uncover for you, well, click on the link in the show notes to speak with Steve. Mention the podcast when you book the meeting. You will receive a special gift. Make sure to like this episode and subscribe to this podcast to hear other great proven business leaders share their strategies to help you grow your business.